everybody. My name is Tori Henson. I'm an Assistant Director of Admission here at the University of Puget Sound. I'm joined by a couple of colleagues here who are going to introduce themselves. We just want to welcome you to this live event. We're here to answer some questions and hopefully get you a little bit more information about our university.
Good evening. My name is Brian Gould. I'm the Director of Financial Aid here at Puget Sound. I've been here for 5.5 years, and I oversee our need-based and merit-based financial aid programs, as well as our endowed scholarship program.
Hi y'all, I'm Cyrus. I'm a sophomore here at UPS. I am engaged in the DLP, in Res Life, in Ultimate Frisbee, in Greek Life, and I also work for admissions. So I'm here to answer any questions about student life or kind of that process.
So we're hoping that you'll send us questions. We'll be keeping an eye on that. But in the meantime, we're going to just start. We're gonna kind of preload a little bit here with some questions that we think that you might have, and we'll just go from there. So just to kick off, I'm wondering, Brian, could you tell us a little bit about how students will apply for financial aid?
Sure. The way to apply for financial aid is to complete the FAFSA, which stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That has been open since October 1st, so I assume that some of you maybe have already completed the FAFSA, and if you have, we do have it on file. So it'll be ready to roll once your admission decision is sent to you. But the FAFSA is really the main tool, the only tool that we use at Puget Sound in order to identify need-based financial aid opportunities or eligibility. There's no need to file the FAFSA if you're only interested in merit-based scholarships. And so in other words, an academic merit scholarship does not require that you demonstrate need or file the FAFSA. And so we kind of have a spectrum of students, some who receive merit-only scholarships, others that file the FAFSA and receive both merit as well as need-based financial aid.
Great. Just as a quick follow-up to that, I was wondering if you could then just talk to how maybe a student could make corrections to their FAFSA, if new circumstances come up, that kind of thing.
Sure. So the FAFSA is actually, you are eligible to log into the FAFSA and complete a separate transaction. And so it's not a one and done scenario. Now, for many families, they'll complete the FAFSA, submit it, and be done. Other families will realize kind of a month later that perhaps they completed the FAFSA incorrectly. You are able and certainly encouraged to log back into the FAFSA and make corrections as you see fit. And when you do that, you will just submit what essentially becomes a second or third transaction that we'll receive. And then we will make revisions to your financial aid based on that information. Sometimes if you do correct your FAFSA, it may cause the federal processor to trigger what is called verification. That's not something to be alarmed about. There are a number of students that get flagged for verification, and that just means that we as a financial aid office have to reach back out to you and confirm and verify some of the information that you've provided. But definitely there are opportunities to log back in and correct an item if you feel as if you've made a mistake.
So we do have a couple of questions that are coming in. So thanks everybody for doing that. And we want to remind you that please ask questions. We'll take care of them here online. But as a follow-up, then one more follow-up. Brian's on tap here. Can you speak to why we don't use the CSS profile?
Sure. The reason we don't use the CSS profile is because the FAFSA is now made available so early in the process. It used to be that the FAFSA years ago opened in January, and we had some admission programs, namely early decision, that required that we communicate to students their financial aid prior to the FAFSA being made available. And so in those days, we did use the CSS profile simply as a placeholder in order to provide students with some information to make a decision. But at this time, because the FAFSA opened so early, we at Puget Sound don't see a need to have a second application that students need to complete. That doesn't mean that those schools that do require it are right or wrong, or I mean, I'm very indifferent to it, frankly. But at Puget Sound, it's not a necessary application. We're more simple in that the FAFSA is all we're going to need in order to determine your eligibility.
Great, thanks. Cyrus will ask a question of you over there. So you had mentioned that you're in the BLP program. Can you explain what the BLP program is and maybe talk about what the best part of being in that cohort is?
Yeah, so the Business Leadership Program is an honors program at UPS for business students, and it requires a separate application that's due, I believe, in January or February. And it's a pretty short application, but they only accept 25 to 30 students per year, and those 25 to 30 students live together their first year at UPS. So everyone stays on the same floor in Todd Phibbs, which is one of our dorms. They also have an RA on that floor who is also in the BLP, which is my role this year. I am the BLP RA. And basically, with the BLP, you take classes as a cohort. So the 25 to 30 of you will take one class together each semester for your whole time here, I believe until the last semester of your senior year, when you kind of move to different capstones. But your fall semester, you'll take macroeconomics. Your spring semester for freshman year, you'll take statistics. And then fall semester for sophomore year, management, and so on and so forth. Law and ethics, marketing, finance, all of those things. But you take them together as a cohort as opposed to kind of openly if you're not in the BLP. In addition, the BLP provides these seminars in the evenings multiple times a week. And they'll have professionals come in from different fields to give talks to the BLP students multiple times per semester. And those talks are really awesome because they're from all these different industries. We've had speakers from Boeing and Amazon and consulting firms and Microsoft and REI and a lot of different companies. And it's really great to be able to connect with them and have them share advice. And then I think the best part of the BLP is the mentor program, which really kicks in your sophomore year in the program. But you are given a mentor who is usually an alumni of the BLP program and works in the CTAC area in business or in finance or in different kind of industries, but they try to match what you're interested in with what your mentor does. And so that program is really great because you build a personal relationship with them and they can help you with internships and help you kind of navigate your college years and setting yourself up for your career. So it's a really great program, and I'm very honored to be a part of it.
Great, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So let me, I'm going to take a question here. We've got a question. How much will an interview help me in the admission process? Speaking as an admission counselor here, I will say that first of all, interviews are not a required part of the process. You can absolutely apply and not interview with us. We really do encourage it though, because it gives us as counselors an opportunity to get to know you a little bit. It's a wonderful time for you to explain anything going on in your life that maybe doesn't translate well to the page or that's sort of hard to explain. Maybe it's a really amazing project you're involved in, something you're really passionate about, and you want that opportunity to talk to us about it. Maybe it's a little blip on your transcript that you'd like to explain or something like that. So it's a really nice opportunity for you to have that chance to just tell us a little bit about yourself that maybe we're not going to pick up on the page. And just kind of speaking from personal experience, it's just really lovely for us to have that kind of, put a face to a name kind of thing. It's really nice as we're reading those applications. But again, please know that it is not a requirement. If we missed you when we were traveling in your town, or you didn't have an opportunity to interview when you came to campus, and you're still interested in doing one, please know that you can absolutely, we're happy to accommodate that by phone or Skype or something similar. The best way to set that up is just to get in touch with your admission counselor for your region. And we're definitely happy to let you know who that is if you're not sure. So let's see. Here's a question for you, Brian. Is there a separate application for merit-based scholarships?
There is not, unless you are interested in what we would consider to be a talent-based scholarship, and I can unpack that here for a moment. We do have a handful of scholarships that require that the student display a certain talent, whether that be music, art, theater. We have a forensics debate scholarship. And so in cases such as those, you would need to either audition or submit separate materials to be considered for those talent-based scholarships. But the lion's share of our merit scholarships do not require a separate application. As part of your admission application, it is determined, A, whether you are admitted to the university, and then it is also determined what level of merit scholarship you'll receive as a part of that admission. Our merit awards for this upcoming year are going to range anywhere from $15,000 to $26,000 per year. They'll be renewable over 4 years, and perhaps even into a 5th year if necessary, although most of our students are graduating in 4 years. But they are renewable at the level of which that they are awarded at the point of admission, and again, don't require a separate application. I would like to mention, we do have a program this year. We're kind of rolling out an opportunity called the Dean's Assurance, where students that have a 3.6 unweighted grade point average at the point of admission are assured the Dean's Scholarship, which is a $23,000 scholarship at minimum. And so certainly the student could achieve something greater than that. But it's some assurance to provide students and families at the point of admission when it comes to their expectations for merit scholarships and what they might receive.
Great, thanks. Cyrus, hey. Right.
Yeah. Let me get my water.
Could you talk about the dynamic between students and professors here on campus, and whether you find that support beyond just kind of basic office hours? I mean, are you able to kind of readily find that support on campus?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really depends on what you put in terms of your relationship with your professors. You can sit at the back of the class and not say a word, and your professor will probably not learn your name because you haven't given them a reason to. Or you could sit at the front of the class and talk to them every day and say hi to them. And suddenly you have a really good relationship with your professor. And I think so that is really indicative. But the professors, every professor I've ever had here has been very open to that relationship and very interested in that relationship. And I actually just ran into one from my first semester at UPS, and we chatted and almost got coffee. So it was really awesome. And I really think that it speaks to why they're here. I think they're here to build a relationship with the students and help them on their path. And I think that's really awesome. So I think every professor is open to those kind of relationships. And I definitely know that I have been able to build a few of those relationships, especially with the business professors at the school. So
Right.
definitely.
Yeah, thank you. And I will say too, just in terms of extra support services on campus too, that there are definitely a lot of services available for students. We have an amazing Office of Student Accessibility and Accommodation. So if you might be working, maybe with a learning difference or something like that and have an accommodation plan, those folks in the SAA office are going to be the folks that you'll work closely with, and they'll help you kind of establish that plan here on our campus. If you're looking for extra tutoring in a particular subject, or maybe just you just need help starting that paper, the Center for Writing, Learning, and Teaching has drop-in hours, scheduled hours, kind of you name it, and feel free to jump in too. And then I know a good number of departments offer a lot of their own tutoring.
Yep.
So they'll have drop-in hours for folks in the department, maybe led by upperclassmen and that kind of thing, sort of like a semi-official study group sort of thing. So there are an awful lot of supports beyond that relationship with professors as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're like, that wasn't a question, but thank you.
No, you covered all of it.
Yeah. So let's see here. You'll have to excuse me as I read the questions as they come in. Let's see. How late after applying under the early action plan do you accept teacher recommendations? So I will take that one. We are hoping that when you apply early action, that you're going to have all of your materials in by November 15th. That allows us enough time that we're going to be able to review your application and get you that decision in a timely manner. That being said, if those last pieces are coming in a little bit late, we can still work with that as well. I don't know that we have a hard and fast cutoff on that past that November 15th date. Certainly, if you are worried that your pieces might come in late, whether it's a recommendation from your teacher, from your counselor, you're worried about your test scores, you can always get in touch with your admission counselor just to kind of give us a heads up. But that being said, something that comes in, maybe a week late, we're still going to do our best to get you your decision within that early action time frame. So let's see here. Here's another one for Cyrus. We're just going to kind of lob them all at you here. Wondering if you could talk a little bit about Greek life on campus.
Yeah. So there are 4 fraternities and I think 5 sororities on campus. And right now, I know that there are talks about changing this. So in the future, this is up for debate. But right now, recruitment happens in the spring semester. So the first semester, there's no kind of involvement with Greek life in the freshman class or the first year class. But in the spring semester, there is formal recruitment. And so sororities and fraternities have different recruitment processes, but each one takes place in relatively the first week of the spring semester, and you get a decision back pretty quickly and then go through different pledge processes and initiations. But they're all really awesome, and I have really enjoyed my experience there. I definitely think that it's not for everyone, but for those of you, if you would like that experience, it's definitely available. But it's by no means a necessary aspect. You don't need to join Greek life to be social on this campus by any means. So, and I think the percentage of students on campus in Greek life reflects that. I think it's about 30% or something like that. So.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Here's one for Brian.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about average student loan debt coming out of Puget Sound and how long it generally takes students to pay off their loans?
Mm-hmm. Sure. For those students that borrow, and that's roughly half of our student body is borrowing some form of student loan in order to be here. And so for those students that are borrowing, the average loan debt, federal loan debt that they have upon graduation is around $25,000 to $27,000, which is, I think, reasonable when you look at kind of national averages and particularly our cost of attendance. We really encourage students to think critically about their borrowing. We talk a lot about return on investment and making good choices when it comes to borrowing and financial planning. And so I guess I would like the audience to know that from a financial aid perspective, we really see our role in this process as counselors and not convincers. And by that, I mean, we really want to counsel students and families towards making a good decision that's right for them financially. And so excessive borrowing is something that I am going to speak out against when it comes to students and to families wanting to make this happen. Moreover, I guess I would say a lot of the work that I've been doing in recent years has been focused on kind of really trying to help families better understand the planning that goes into this. It is challenging when families kind of show up in my office in April, just starting to think about the financial piece of this decision. And so I would encourage each family that has concerns about finances or financial aid to sit down and really focus on a monthly budget to get a feel for kind of where their expenses are and where it is their money is going each and every month as it relates to their child. I have a student that's actually in high school now, and so I'm starting to think more critically about this equation. And I've been doing some work even in my family, trying to figure out how much actually we're spending on our children while they're in the house, so that I can kind of start to focus on how I'll be able to attribute those funds to our children when they're, quote, out of the house and in college. And you may be surprised at how much even $500 to $1,000 a month can add up to when it comes to your tuition bill. So that's kind of the approach that we take in counseling families and trying to provide them with kind of some financial planning. But to answer your question directly, 10 years is really the time frame that students are permitted to pay back their federal loans. Some may pay it off sooner, which is great, but 10 years is really the federally mandated timeline that students have to repay those loans once they've graduated. You need not pay on the loan while you're in college. They can be deferred while you're enrolled. They also can be deferred if you're in graduate school. And so there are reasons why you might be able to defer payment on those loans. But once you start repayment, I would say 10 years is a good estimate that you'll need to take in repaying them.
Great. Thanks. So we have a question here about getting connected with the athletics department and getting involved in sports on campus. So Cyrus, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that as well, but also I will just say in terms of getting in touch with the athletics department, do know this is a place where you can absolutely reach out directly to the coaching staff. And that's going to be your best bet. That information is all available on our website. So if you're looking for information about the individual varsity sports, you'll be able to find that on our athletic page. And right along with that would be the coaching staff. You'll find email addresses there and that kind of thing. And please, feel free to reach out to those coaches in your individual sport for more information. And have you been involved in athletics on campus?
So I'm not involved with varsity athletics, but I am heavily involved with club athletics.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, that's kind of another level of athletics at UPS. But I would say that it's really accessible. Generally, the first or second week of September is Logjam. And Logjam is this kind of big school-wide event where every club on campus goes out and tables on our field to kind of get people to sign up for their different clubs. And so every club on campus is going to be there, but any club athletics is also going to be there. And then you'll also see that when people are just hanging out, kicking a soccer ball, throwing a frisbee, whatever, you can go talk to those people, and everyone's super open to getting people to come hang out with them. And so that's a really good way to do it as well. But Logjam is definitely primary.
Great.
I would say too, I don't know if this is exactly true, but because we're a small campus, we have a lot of varsity athletes here among us. I would say perhaps 1 in 3 students, give or take, are participating in our athletics program. And so as an athlete, you'll be in good company here because a good portion of our students are engaged in either varsity or club sports.
Oh, definitely.
Great. So let's see here. Scrolling through some of the questions that we've received. We've got a question about Puget Sound, the sense of community on campus at Puget Sound. And so I think that, talking about Logjam, people getting involved in clubs and club sports and activities like that, that would be, really speaks to that idea of kind of that building of community here on campus. I would also say too, in terms of that sense of community, do know that we do have a majority of our students are coming some distance to come be with us here on campus. It's very much a residential campus. We have all students, no matter where they're coming from, will live on campus with us for the first 2 years. And about half of our upperclassmen stay on campus. Those who choose to move off campus are oftentimes living still within walking distance, kind of in this neighborhood. So there's physically we are together here on campus. There's, this is not a commuter campus where everybody's going home on the weekend. Folks are around and really kind of building that kind of sense of family and community. There's a lot to do in the local area, and I think students do get involved with that as well.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I'm actually from Texas, so I've definitely traveled the distance to be here. But I would say that one of the things that makes UPS unique, and one of the things that brought me here, was the sense of community on campus, because everyone's living together and everyone's involved with at least something, and everyone wants to support each other with their different activities. And so you have people from my Greek organization will come and support me in Ultimate Frisbee, and people from the BLP will go and do res life things. Like everyone is kind of interconnected, and that has been a really awesome part of the UPS experience, I would say. And definitely, I think even when upperclassmen, when they move off campus, they stay in the area. They're still on campus all the time. I don't know anybody who drives to campus. Everyone walks. Everyone is within a mile at least.
Right.
of us.
Yeah. So Brian, on average, how much financial aid and or scholarships do students receive per year?
That's a good question because it can vary obviously from student to student. I would say just kind of in the ballpark, it could be anywhere from, $20,000 to $40,000 per year in institutional grant aid, which can vary from student to student based upon their merit scholarship amount as well as their need if they file the FAFSA. That's prior to any loan offering that we might make to a student, as well as work study is an option for some students that qualify. And so your financial aid package, as it's often referred to, consists of everything, from institutional aid, which is, college grants and scholarships, to federal and state financial aid that can be in the form of grants. You maybe heard of the federal Pell Grant, or if you're from Washington, there's something called the Washington College Grant. So those would be kind of government financial aid sources. And then I would also encourage students, and I do every year. I was just doing an event yesterday where I was really focusing attention on outside scholarship opportunities. Those often are overlooked until it's too late. If you're talking with me in April about any additional scholarships that you can apply for, you're asking me too late, because typically, December, January is when those will open, and they close in March. And so that's something to be considered. It could be, $1,000 from your local Kiwanis or Rotary organization. So there's a lot of opportunities to research and receive financial aid, both from the institution as well as from some outside resources. And I know that for some students that can really help to either reduce the loan burden that they would otherwise have, or perhaps require them not to work their first year while they're kind of getting acclimated to campus. While we have a few programs where we're able to meet full need for students in large part, it's important to note that we're going to cost for some students anywhere from $20,000 to $35,000 per year after financial aid is applied, and we want to work closely with you in trying to kind of best understand how to go about managing that cost, whether it be through additional financial aid opportunities or also through student accounts, which my colleague I work closely with. We have payment plan options that students and families can enter into, and just various ways that we can work with families to ensure that they're able to kind of meet the cost of being here.
Great, thanks. We have a question now about study abroad, and I can take a swing at this one. How easy and accessible is study abroad? As a hopeful athlete, how difficult might it be for me to take advantage of opportunities such as study abroad? Study abroad is accessible, certainly here on campus. Just somewhere near 40% of our students do choose to study abroad during their time with us. We have a wide range of programs for students to choose from, and our Office of International Programs works really closely with students through that application process, and kind of working through all of those logistics during their for the study abroad program. In terms of how to make that work with varsity athletics, obviously that can be a pretty, varsity athletics are pretty time consuming for sure, and you've got seasons that you're working with. Do know that study abroad can happen either semester, fall or spring. It can also happen over the summer. So if you are, you have problems maybe coordinating or being away from campus due to your athletic schedule during one of the semesters, one or either or both of the semesters, do know that summer is also an option for you to study abroad. So there is that. Let's see here. Would you be able to speak more about the honors program at Puget Sound? And I can go with that one too. Cyrus, do you have any experience with honors?
I do not.
Not, okay, just wanted to double check before I jumped in. No, not at all. I would be afraid, like, because no, absolutely. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to start talking and then find out you're like, anyway. So yes, I'm happy to talk a little bit about the honors program. So honors, like business leadership program, honors is a cohort of students that come into the university together. You apply for honors when you're applying to the university. So before you get here, you'll apply. It is very specifically a program where you're working your way through our core curriculum with other honors students taking honors specific courses for each of those core curriculum requirements. You can be majoring in any department on campus. Honors is not its own department. It's not its own college. You're not sequestered away. So you can major in anything you'd like while you're part of the honors program. But you will take your core curriculum classes together. So there's so part of the question too was, does that does that affect your admission or any of that? We're not going to base any of our admission decisions based on your application to the honors program. And I'll throw out there as well, do know that folks do not apply into any majors either. So we're not looking at your major when we're considering you for admission. You'll list on Common App what your academic interests are, but you're going to come in here undeclared. We're going to give you a little time to think about what you'd like to do, test the waters a little bit, take some extra classes. So whether or not you're applying to the honors program isn't going to affect your admission. Yes?
One thing I do know about the honors program is that everyone lives in the same building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody lives in Register together. So it is also a residential program.
It is a residential program. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see, and this is something maybe we can all take a little turn at. There are many small private liberal arts colleges. Can you provide some insight as to what might set Puget Sound apart? So would you like to go first, maybe from the student perspective?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was only applying to colleges a couple years ago, not too long, and I remember I only really looked at smaller liberal arts colleges because I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I think one thing that really sets UPS apart, at least now that I've been here for a while, is how happy everyone is to be here. It seems like at a lot of other schools that I visited, students kind of were just going through the motions, but here, and even when I visited, I noticed this, it just seems like people care about what they're doing. And I don't know, maybe that sounds like a super cliche answer, but the community here is so supportive and so social and so kind and compassionate. And that's the thing. I mean, as an RA, I'm working with first year students all the time. And the thing I consistently hear is how nice everybody is and how everyone is very helpful and compassionate. And I think that really speaks to the type of student that comes to UPS. And so I would definitely say that that's something that sets UPS apart, along with its kind of academic curriculum. I think it's really cool that UPS has such a strong business program and such strong STEM programs, while also maintaining a lot of kind of the basis of liberal arts with good social science programs. So I think that really also speaks to it, and how academic the environment is here. I think one thing that surprised me when I got here was how academic it was, but I've come to love it, and it really feels like every class I take, I'm actually learning something that's going to be useful later in life. So that's what I would say.
Wow, you covered a lot of bases. You took my answer.
I would say Tacoma. I moved to the Northwest from the Midwest in 1999, and Tacoma has changed dramatically over the last 20 years, in my opinion. It's a city now that really demands kind of an arts community that I find super appealing. Seeing live music is certainly common here in Tacoma. We're located in a place where within walking distance, you can get to kind of a main drag with record stores and restaurants and kind of kind of more urban life, I guess, which is something that is appealing to, I think, not just myself, but faculty, staff, students alike. I've worked at other colleges, and I'm very familiar with many small liberal arts colleges that are great colleges, but they tend to be located in more kind of remote, perhaps rural communities, which is good for some, but I think Tacoma provides a really nice kind of backdrop for the experience that students can get here at a small college, where the small college community provides kind of like, a comfortable space for students, but there's also the city of Tacoma that allows for, I think, a lot of exploration and opportunity.
Yeah, and I would just kind of add on to that a little bit to say that we're also the location here in the Puget Sound region in the Pacific Northwest. So we have that urban access. Certainly, we're close also to Seattle, to Olympia, the state capital, but also to a wide range of outdoor activities too, where we're located. We're close to the Cascades for camping and climbing and hiking and skiing, the Olympic National Rainforest, Mount Rainier. We're right on the shores of the Puget Sound. So that outdoor access is kind of goes right along with that. Absolutely. As well. Yeah. You two are quite eloquent. I think I'm gonna leave it for you guys. That was yeah, absolutely. Let's see. We can all take maybe Brian. Maybe I'll hand this to you, and then we'll see. How easy is it to get a job as a student at Puget Sound on campus in particular? And I'm thinking maybe, especially from the work study standpoint.
Yeah. Well,
we'll go past that.
It's easy to get a job if you qualify for work study. And so I think really the question really should be more focused on how do I qualify for work study? Work study is a need-based program. And so we receive an allocation each year, both from the federal government as well as from the state government, that we are able to use in providing work opportunities to students that are in essence guaranteed. I mean, if we offer you a work study award in your financial aid package, as long as you go through kind of the process of securing a job, you'll have one. It may not be your first choice job, but you certainly can work on campus if you qualify. That tends to be students who file the FAFSA and have an expected family contribution somewhere in the $25,000 per year range. If you filed the FAFSA, you would know kind of what your EFC is. And so that's really kind of the threshold that we use to ensure that we're able to provide the most work study dollars to the most number of students. Unfortunately, we can't guarantee everyone a job. But as long as you're eligible for federal or state work study, you'll be able to work, 10 hours, maybe up to 12 hours a week. We're not interested in students feeling like they're full-time employees here. It's really just an opportunity to kind of supplement your experience while on campus. And so if that answers the question, that's kind of how we go about awarding work study. I would say, I guess, in conclusion, that there are non-work study job opportunities. So if you don't qualify for work study, that doesn't mean you can't work. That just means that you're going to have to be a little bit more self-directed in finding a job opportunity either on campus or perhaps in the local community where there are job opportunities as well, such as restaurants and stores and so forth that students may choose to work in.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I didn't qualify for work study this year, but there are always jobs available. I know Dining and Conference Services is always hiring. I have an interview with them on Thursday. And then also Student Accessibility hires note takers and different tutors. CWLT hires tutors. You can work for facilities. There's a ton of jobs on campus. And I've never known someone to not be able to find a job. And I think Career and Employment Services is super helpful. They have a whole website with all the jobs for the university. And yeah, I think it's definitely easy to find a job even without work study.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm going to put in a little plug for the Office of Admission. We're always looking for great tour guides. So, and that's not a work study job. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there are definitely opportunities around. But to be clear, these are going to be jobs that are much more in the range of 10 to 12 hours. This is not a kind of place where you're going to come in and work 30 or 40 hours and go to school. So, but yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So we have another question about academic support and options for students with learning disabilities. We did touch on that earlier, but I'll just kind of go over that a little bit again. We do have a fantastic Office of Student Accessibility and Accommodation here on campus. So they're going to work with students who have who are working with accommodation plans, who need some extra support in the classroom. So if you've got a plan in place, they're certainly going to help you kind of work with your professors and get those accommodations in place here as well. They are also able to help you kind of figure out that accommodation need as well. If you don't have one in place, they'll help you with resources to point you in the right direction to get that accommodation plan in place as well. But they do offer all levels of support, just like Cyrus said, everything from note takers and readers and that kind of thing, you know, all the way through to working with closely with your professors on, you know, extra test time and that kind of thing. So it is, if you have really specific questions about specific needs, we can absolutely kind of help you, at least in the Office of Admission, we can help connect you with student accessibility and accommodations so that you can just confirm that that the accommodations that work well for you are things that we can work with you as well. Okay, let's see. And I am going to defer to Cyrus on this one. How would you describe the classroom environment? Is it discussion-based?
So I think it really depends on the class.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really want your physics class to be discussion-based. It's not a discussion. Those are facts. So it definitely depends on the class. And I think some classes excel as a lecture-based class. So I took microeconomics last year, and the teacher or the professor lectured, and that was kind of it. There was no discussion, and I loved it. I loved that class a lot because it was just the sharing of information, and the discussion would not have helped at all. Now, with that being said, every first year goes and takes 2 classes their first year, one each semester, your seminar in scholarly inquiry. And these classes are almost 100% discussion-based, I would say. And they're all kind of focused on different topics. I know there's one on Elvis and Michael Jackson, there's one on World War II. I took one on the architectures of power. I also took one on leadership. There are ones in every kind of topic you can imagine, and each one kind of fits into a major if you wanted to put it in that category. But those classes are absolutely discussion-based, and I think a lot of other classes are discussion-based as well. I took a political theory class last year that was discussion-based, one of my favorite classes that I've ever had. And so I definitely think that the professor knows what they're teaching and knows the format of how they're going to teach it and what would be effective. And trusting that is a win-win, I think. So some classes are, some classes aren't, but the ones that are do it really well, and the ones that aren't have a great style of teaching as well. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of morph in a little bit to another question on the list here about how large some of those introductory classes are, because I would say that in terms of how discussion-based classes are, certainly the subject matter, also kind of the level of the class. So where an introductory class, as you said, is likely to be a little bit more lecture-based, mm-hmm. certainly. And upper level classes tend to be more discussion based. I will say in terms of class size, we work with, we see those class lists in our office as well. And I think the largest class I've seen on the registrar's list is about 45 students. And that would be for an intro science class. And do know that those classes are then still going to break down into smaller lab sections, and all the classes, all the lab sections are taught by professors. So you've got that. The average class size is 17. So 45 is kind of on the upper limit there, certainly, of that. I think that, would you say for other 101s that are not science-based, probably, 20s or...
Definitely seminars, especially because it's only first years. Every seminar is usually about 12.
Right, those are capped.
Those are very, very small, which is really nice for the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And generally, I would also say, the classes that I've taken haven't been larger than 20.
Right.
Definitely. Even the 101s. I think maybe my African American Studies class was a little bigger because there weren't as many sections of it. Mm. And definitely my science classes have been a little bigger, but overall, very small classes and really, really conducive to any kind of discussion.
Right. Yeah. Let's see here. Let's talk a little bit about internships. What are internship opportunities like? Have you had an opportunity yet? You're a sophomore this year, so perhaps not.
Yeah, I actually had an internship
Already?
opportunity
Excellent.
my freshman year. I had to turn it down because I didn't have the time for it. But I think the program that I'm in gives me a unique access to internships. The PLP and the business program as a whole is definitely really helpful in sharing information about internships. But from what I've heard, I think it's really easy to get them. It's definitely a sophomore, junior, senior level type thing. And it definitely requires you to be a self-starter. You have to go and apply for the internship and kind of do the search. But we live so close to Seattle and the Tacoma area as well that there are thousands of internships available in the area, and it's very easy to snag one if you put the work.
And it's something that as a university that we've put a lot of thought and kind of emphasis on in getting students out into the world to do those internships.
Yeah.
We actually have what's the RISE program, Reflective Immersive Sophomore Experience. Man, I hope I got the acronym right. I'm terrible with acronyms, but that's probably it. But the idea behind that program is it's a series of essentially classes that sophomores can sign up for and take that basically are going to address how to look for an internship, how to find an experience that's going to be meaningful for you. How to make the most of it while you're in it, how to translate what you've done in that experience to your resume, your CV, your grad school application, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's really that, and that's something that's open to all sophomores. You certainly don't have to take any of that to participate in an internship, but it just kind of I think is indicative of the level of focus that we put on that. Career and Employment Services is really your go-to office on campus if you are at all interested in getting an internship. They know the folks right in the local community, certainly alumni that are involved in the areas that you would like to be involved in, local businesses that we work with here in Tacoma, up in Seattle, down in Olympia. That kind of thing. So yeah, quite accessible, I would say, for sure.
And you can do a session with CES where you go over your resume, go over interview strategies. That'll help you with all of that.
Yeah, and that's really helpful for internships. It's also really helpful for getting a job. So as you're moving through, when you're a senior and it's starting to get pretty real, they do an awful lot, helping you get your resume together, helping you with practice your interview skills. All of that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. Okay. So we are we're getting close to the end of our time here, and I think we have time for a few quick questions here at the end. So I'm going to do that, and I think folks on camera are going to wave at me when it's time for me to really wrap up. So I'm getting about 10 minutes here. So let's see here. Does early action help your chances of admission or of getting scholarships? And I'm going to say, talking from the Office of Admission here, it really doesn't change your chance of admission. It is, we're going to admit at right about the same rate either way. Either way, we're concerned with you being academically prepared to be here. And in terms of scholarships, that's not going to change either. So whether you choose to apply early action, regular decision, that's going to be about the same. Let's see here. After applying on November 15th, when can we expect to hear our admission decision as well as our financial aid package? So in terms of your admission decision, if you have applied early action and we have everything in by November 15th or really close to it, we are going to be able to get you your answer before winter break. Financial aid award should come out
shortly after that. I think our plan with financial aid is if your early decision, and there are fewer students that apply early decision, but for those students, we want to be sure we get them a financial aid package so that they can make their commitment to attend early. And so we'll be certain to do that. For early action, which is what Tori was referring to, I would say by the end of January, you should have your official financial aid package in hand, regardless of when you were admitted. If that was kind of mid-December, or even if you get admitted early January, our focus is on late January to be the time frame where we can start delivering official financial aid packages to admitted students. From there, it will be shortly after that admission decision that you get financial aid delivered.
Great, perfect.
We're trying to be early because we know you're anxious, but we also want to be sure that we're accurate and that we can make it official for you. And so that's partly why there's a bit of a break there between that mid-December and late January timeline.
Okay, let's see. Let's try to hit a couple more quick questions before we have to go here. I already applied to UPS but did not apply for the honors program. Can I still apply for it? Yes, you can. The due date for that is January 15th. You can find that application on our website, and if you have problems, easy to get in touch with us in the Office of Admission and we can point you to the right place, but you do still have time. Do you provide fee waivers for applications? Yes, we do. We accept all of the kind of the standard ones that you might have access to through College Board or any of the larger programs. You'll see those options on Common App, and those will apply to all of the schools that you are applying to. If you tick those boxes on Common App. If you do not have one of those kind of standard fee waivers, we can still offer you one. What we would ask is that you have your school counselor send an email to your admission counselor or to admission@pugetsound.edu if you're not sure who your admission counselor is. We would just have your school counselor just give us a short statement stating that it would be a financial burden for you, and we are happy then to grant that fee waiver. Let's see. As an East Coast student who visited in the spring, I will not be able to make it out to UPS in the fall. Will this affect my chances of getting in? Definitely not. Absolutely not. We know that traveling across country is, that's something. We appreciate that you've made it once. So no, absolutely, that is not going to be a problem. Let's see, how and when do you submit AP test results for possible UPS credit? So AP test scores, ideally you'll submit those to us. Your official test scores have those coming from College Board, so the official scores. We'd like to have those as soon as possible after you decide to commit to Puget Sound, so that the registrar's office has your official test scores and can incorporate that into your official file application, and that can be taken into consideration when we go through course registration for you for your fall classes. Let's see, especially.
Can I say something
yes,
about AP
please do.
scores? So,
yeah.
Although AP scores aren't necessarily going to affect your admission or your aid because they happen after you've already made your decision, they are so valuable because I came in with 8 credits at the school from my APs, and so they are absolutely valuable. Make sure you send them in because it can really affect how long you spend here and save you a lot of money in terms of the semesters you spend. Because I'm graduating early because of those credits. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. But just in terms of kind of time frame, like it costs money to send those scores off. So yeah, you can wait until after you've made your decision. We're good. And let's see, I think we have time for maybe one more question here. If you apply for early decision, is there a wait list or is there a definitive yes/no decision? Oftentimes you will get a yes/no decision, but it is entirely possible that we would ask maybe for some additional information from you. So it is possible that we could roll your application over to the regular decision deadline. We might be looking maybe for, say, your fall grades or something like that, if there's a question. So there's a very clear yes to all of those options on there. Okay, let's see here. Let's ask one more question of Cyrus. Is there anything that you wish you knew about academic life here before attending Puget Sound?
Well, I kind of mentioned it before, but I wasn't really expecting the academic rigor that I got here, and not only that, but the academic mindset. I think that was the most surprising thing. I came in kind of expecting, this is not great to say, but I came in expecting nobody to really be taking anything seriously. because I guess I wasn't, and that was not at all how it was. People take their academics really seriously here, because it does matter a lot. It really is kind of, you have your future in your hands when you're here. And so that was something I guess I wish I knew, but I've come to really appreciate that about this school. And I think that it is very valuable. But I think one thing to remember is that you're going to end up where you're going to end up, and you shouldn't stress about this whole process or about academics. Things are going to turn out how they're going to turn out, and everything's going to be okay at the end. It's really important to remember.
Yeah, those are great words to wrap up on. I
Yeah.
like that. That's really good. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into this live stream. We appreciate you sending in all of those questions. We've tried to answer as many as possible. I hope we didn't miss too many. If we didn't get to your question, please reach out to the Office of Admission. You can do that via email at admission@pugetsound.edu, or you can call us at 253-879-3211. But we'd be very happy to help you. So thanks so much. Thank you again.
Good night.